My name is William Kaiser, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force, retired, and Nicolette Jones is my granddaughter. When she asked me to tell this story, what could be more appropriate that it should take place on June 6, 2011, the 67th anniversary of D-Day in Europe, and I was fortunate enough to be assigned to fly one of our B-17 Flying Fortresses on that historic day. This story all began in 1942 when I was 21 years old, when I enlisted in what was then called the Army Air Corps and now the United States Air Force. I was working at the Sun Ship Company in Chester, Pennsylvania when I enlisted. I was called to active duty in February 1943 as an aviation cadet and sent to Nashville, Tennessee Classification Center, where I was selected for pilot training. There are 4 stages to become a pilot, each lasting 2 months. Number 1 is pre-flight. This is ground school and learning how to march and give and take orders. Number 2, primary flying school, and this is your first meeting with an airplane. Number 3, basic flying school, is more complicated, and number 4, advanced flying school. In my case, the advanced flying school was training in multi-engine aircraft. In November 1943, my class graduated as second lieutenants and received our pilot's wings. We were now absolutely and effectively hot pilots. In January 43, in Salt Lake City, our 10-man crew was assembled. We then spent the next 2 months in operational training at Dyersburg, Tennessee. This prepared us for combat with formation flying, gunnery school, and bombing practice. After completing this training, we picked up a brand new 4-engine B-17 Flying Fortress and flew across the Atlantic Ocean to Iceland and then to England. After several practice missions, I flew my first one on May 27, 1944, and my 35th combat mission 90 days later. All missions were flown at 20,000 to 25,000 feet. Altitude, except 2 of missions were lower than that. All missions were flown from our base in northeast England and lasted from 7 to 10 hours in extremely close formation and wearing oxygen masks all the time. Among my missions were those to Berlin 3 times, Schweinfurt, Munich 3 times, Hanover, Leipzig, and Bremen. Flying tight formation was very physical and tiring, especially when flying through German anti-aircraft fire and facing enemy aircraft trying to shoot you down. Very scary and nerve-wracking. One of our most frightening missions was when we had to land with only 1.5 engines operating and losing altitude at 100 feet per minute. It was scary on most missions, and if you were not a little bit frightened facing enemy fighters and anti-aircraft fire, I would think that you were not quite human. Knowing that my fellow pilot and I were responsible for the safety of our other 8 crew members taught us what teamwork was really about. We had some very close encounters. We were always treated with the highest respect when returning from overseas. It was great for me. My wife and I were married 3 weeks after I returned from combat. At the end of the war, I remained in the Air Force Reserve until I retired. At the end of the war, I went to college and spent many years as an accountant. I always remained in touch with my crew, and we had several reunions. I even worked with my fellow pilot for several years. There are only 3 of us remaining of the original 10 members. I will be 90 years old in July 15th, 2001. And I'm glad to be here. Here is my recollection of my crew's mission on June 6, 1944. D-Day was my 7th mission. We supported the invasion troops by bombing railroad choke points inland of the invasion coast. When we went to pre-mission briefing, the mission was top secret and we had no idea what the target was going to be. The first thing the briefing officer said was, quote, "If you have to abandon the mission, do not just turn around and fly back the same route that you came over. If so, you will be shot down by the hundreds of naval ships under you. If you are going the wrong way, you will be considered German," and we didn't want that to happen. We were to fly far to the south and away from the invasion route. After our bombing was completed, we were forced to land at a Royal Air Force field and remain there overnight, returning to our home base the next morning. The first picture is a B-17 that has been hit by flak and is going down in flame and will crash. The second picture is when I received my Distinguished Flying Cross along with 4 other officers. And this is a picture of me after when I came home. And this is one of the B-17s that we flew. In fact, it's from our group. And this one is a B-17 from our group with 4 P-51s flying formation. The one on the top left is my air medal. Down there, the left is my certificate of retirement. That is a B-17 from my group on the Schweinfurt mission. The picture on the left is my first pilot, and I'm the co-pilot next to him. And those are the Distinguished Flying Cross up there, and my retired reserve there. This picture was taken when I was flying B-26s up at West Hampton, New York. And this is a B-26. This is my crew in our first day in England. The bombardier, navigator, pilot, co-pilot. And those are my Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, and it is in my rank at retirement. This thing here is the American Air Force in England with the different kinds of airplanes that we flew.